Hey, queens. Hey.
Hey, girls.
So, longtime listeners of the show know that we usually do a summer break.
That's right. It is really important for us to take a couple of months off to enjoy some fun in the sun.
Girl, I literally, my brain passed out on you yesterday.
Sometimes it happens. Sometimes it happens. Burnout is real, even when it's something you love.
I know.
Podcast.
Yeah. We didn't want to leave you guys high and dry for all of this.
Exactly. So, over the summer, we're going to be featuring a few different things.
Yeah, you might have heard a couple of our classic Patreon episodes. Every now and then, we'll put them on the feed.
Yeah, that's right. And our Patreon episodes might be a little bit different. Like, the formatting might be a little bit different. The styles might be a little bit different than our regular episodes. But we think you're going to love them.
Right. You might have also heard an episode from another podcast that we might recommend.
We have a couple of shows we're going to feature on the feed that we think you'll love while we take a little break. We hope you enjoy the show.
And let's raise a glass.
And as always, y'all, we curse a little bit. So if you don't like strong language in your history, this may not be the show for you.
No, Nathan's got a potty mouth. Doo-dah.
Cheers, bitches. Hey, Patreon bitches.
Woo, woo. We're back.
So we just finished recording our Zenobia episode. So now, in honor of it being Pride Month, we wanted to do a Patreon episode about the LGBT community, like some pioneers or pioneeresses, as we called them in the Zenobia episode.
So disclaimer, each one of these women deserve their own fucking episode.
They really do. So we are giving you the
Cliff Notes version?
Cliff Notes. If we get enough demand, we'll definitely do a full novel.
So I'm also going to do another disclaimer whenever we get a little lower down with one of the greatest queens, Marsha P Johnson. There may be some words that we would find offensive today.
Yeah.
That they used back then. So disclaimer, I'm sorry. I did not choose these words.
And
I do not want to say these words.
Whenever we use the pronouns, he, she, we are using the pronouns that they used for themselves.
Yes.
We are using what we've read. If our research is wrong, because again, we didn't do like deep dives on any of these people. We did the Cliff Note version.
Yes.
But hey, if you want to open a discussion with us about any of this,
I would love it.
We would love to discuss with you. Teach us something.
I had so much fun doing this research.
I know.
So the first one that we're going to talk about, her name is Christine Jorgensen. So she was born George Jorgensen Jr., and she was made famous widely for being the first transgendered American woman to actually undergo the gender reassignment surgery.
So I don't want to actually know, but like the gross part of my brain is just like, what was a transgender surgery like in the 1940s?
Way more barbaric than it probably was now. And I'm sure... not to get into too much of the nitty-gritty, I'm sure there wasn't as much emphasis on
cosmetics.
The cosmetics and the sexual gratification.
It was just
and like, did it actually...
It goes this way now.
...feel good whenever she had sex, or was it painful?
So long as it made her feel like what she
like
felt
a woman,
inside, then...
who cares?
So she was born in 1926, right?
She was born to George Jorgensen Sr. and Florence Davis Henson. And she grew up in what most people would consider today the typical upper middle class family at the time. And I think I read an interview where they were doing an interview. She's like, well, my family owned a car, so I guess you would say that we're upper middle class because it was the Depression.
Because we owned a car.
It was the Depression. So
that
she said that she was upper middle class because they owned a car.
But she knew she was different.
Yeah, she never really quite felt right being a boy.
Yeah.
And she knew that she wasn't, I mean, at this point I just kind of want to say George didn't know that
Well, that's how she talks about herself in interviews. When she talks about her past life, like when she talks about herself as a kid, she calls herself George.
Yeah, so George knew that he was different. He knew that he didn't like to play sports. He didn't like short hair. He didn't like hunting. He didn't like boys' clothes. He didn't like being the little hooligan that went outside and did all that stuff.
Yeah, he wanted to hang out with the girls and like sit inside and have tea and stuff like that.
Play dolls, play dress up.
Which again is another misogynist stereotype all on its own.
It totally is.
But that's what, if that's what he wanted to do, that's what he wanted to do, the inside things and play with hair and dolls and tea and
for it.
gossip.
That's what he wanted to do. So
yeah, he wanted to drink mimosas and gossip.
Honey, I'm right there with you, girl. So Christine, what I read was that she really started to become envious of her sister at the time of puberty hitting.
Because she was getting some boobs.
Well, yeah, her sister was getting boobs. Her hair was long and beautiful. And so she started to be like...
Boys were starting to hit on her.
Yeah, and so she's sitting there going, what is... She felt something wrong.
One really interesting thing that I read, and I might be skipping ahead a little bit in Christine's life, was that, once she started to realize something was different with her, she did kind of go to those underground gay clubs.
Uh-huh.
But she was not attracted to gay men.
No.
She didn't like gay men hitting on her.
And that is very, very common with transgender.
Yeah, but it's not like today where she could just Google, what's up with me? And find an online community to connect with. And she had to put those pieces together herself and be like, oh, it's not just that I want to be with men. I want to be with straight men. I want to be a woman, you know?
And so that was a huge deal in this time. And even as an adult... even as adults, the adults in her life recognized that something was wrong. I don't want to say wrong with her, but they...
according to people in the 30s and 40s.
In that time, they were like, something's up. It's like her parents even knew this is just not her being effeminate. This is
something beyond that.
Something beyond that.
Yeah.
So... Christine tried to enlist in the Army twice, but they turned her away because of her small stature. Something in me is telling me that the Army was just being xenophobic. A little bit.
Xenophobic means you're from a different country.
Oh, no. What is
Doesn't xenophobic means homophobic?
Homophobic. Hey.
Xenophobic means afraid of people from another country. New Jersey might feel like a different
Nathan's
country sometimes.
Wasted. Not
How
really.
are you wasted? You've only had one glass of wine.
Not even. Oh
Yo,
my
we didn't.
God.
This is probably the soberest episode we ever did because we both had really hardcore weekends of drinking.
Yeah, we did.
Anyway,
she tried to enlist for the Army twice, got turned down, and was drafted just a couple months later, and it was at the end of World War II.
Yeah, because they were like, no, we don't want you. You're too girly. And then, once the war actually happened, they were like,
come on. We need you. And so she saw this as a way for her to kind of fulfill that male role as
maybe she thought, this
George.
will make me feel
manly.
Maybe I'll feel like George now.
Maybe I'll be a man now that I'm working in the Army. But she was given a desk job because she was too small and she was effeminate.
How small was she? She doesn't look super short in pictures.
She was pretty short.
For a woman,
she was a little over 5 foot. She's about my height.
Really? She looked kind of tall. Because, in the, these pictures, when I was looking at the pictures of her, when I'm like, this was before contouring. She is gorge. But then when there's pictures with her hands up to her face, that's the only way I can tell.
That's the only way. Even her as an older woman, you would have no fucking clue.
No, she should definitely have her own YouTube tutorials.
When she was in the military, nobody asked her what bathroom she used. Yeah. I listened to all of these, interviews, and not a single time did I hear what bathroom.
She got discharged from the Army, honorable discharge because the war was over, but she got free health care for the rest of her life.
And that was the funny thing.
They didn't care. They weren't like, are you transgender?
I know.
That
was so fascinating. It's they asked that question in the 70s, was do you still receive benefits? And she's like, actually, yes. And they were like, oh, cool. And I'm like, wait.
Nobody thought twice about it. They were like, oh, that's good. You served your country. Cool.
Wow, we're in 2018 and we're way worse than that. Anyway, after she got out of the Army, she ended up going into photography. And her dad used to develop film together as a kid.
I couldn't find any of her work.
I wasn't able to either. I'm sure we could.
So she must have been a pretty mediocre photographer.
Yeah, probably.
But I think that's cool that even after her change and everything, she tried to she didn't want to just be known in the world as this transgender person. She wanted to make a life for herself.
And it was in this time, when she was in Connecticut doing her college work, being a photographer, that she started questioning who she was and why she felt this way. And, you know, she had these two really close friends in college that she would always tell them, I have the emotions of a girl.
Yeah.
I know that's kind of misogynistic in a way.
History's a bag of dicks. Everybody was misogynistic
in the 50s,
until, like, yesterday. Yeah.
Yeah. No,
absolutely.
they still are.
Yeah.
But she really started to notice, I have more feminine qualities than I do masculine qualities.
Well, and also that was a time and place where you didn't have an outlet to metabolize that. So that's the only way you could say that. It's like, I feel more like a woman.
Yep.
And because there was no other way for you to say it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so Christine actually had heard of this endocrinologist in America named Dr. Grayson. And he had been doing hormone treatments on like rats and stuff like that. So she was like, man, maybe this guy can tell me what's wrong and tell me if I'm, you know, something's going on in my head.
And he was like, bitch, you need therapy.
Yeah. He was a total fucking douche and just like referred her to a psychiatrist, was like, I mean, you're sick.
No, I think he should have just taken her money and tried to actually help her if that's what she wanted. But at the time, I think it's a little harsh to call him a total fucking douche. Because he maybe did just... Because it wasn't something you were hearing of a lot. Maybe he did just think she was mentally ill.
And at the same point, like, he's only doing trials on animals, so what would make him go to humans?
I mean, he definitely wasn't the most open-minded. He's not, you know, about to win any awards from the LGBTQ community. But I think it's a little hasty to call him a douche.
Yeah, so she ended up... You know, whenever you can't find someone open-minded in America, what do? You go to Europe. And she reached out to this doctor in Denmark.
That's what I did for my husband.
Well, guess what? You got a good one. You bagged a good one. So she ended up going and finding this doctor in Denmark named Dr. Christian Hamburger. I think it's pronounced like Hamburg or something like that, but I like hamburger.
Hamburger.
It's
Christian
spelled,
Hamburger.
It's spelled like hamburger, damn it.
It sounds like a fast food restaurant for Jesus. Christian Hamburger.
Oh my gosh, it's like Chick-fil-A, but for burgers.
Christian Hamburger with a side of holy fries.
Oh my god, I love
Some
it.
St. Peter coleslaw.
Sprinkled with
holy water.
So Dr. Hamburger actually, you know, looked her in the eye and said, this has nothing to do with you being gay. You're not gay. You are transsexual. You're transgendered. So they began this 3-year research period on her. So Dr. Hamburger took her in and was like, hey, we're going to start some hormone treatment and see how this works for you. And they actually did the surgery on September of 1951. And then somehow the fucking New York Daily News caught wind of this shit. And they released a story on December 1st on 1952, and the headline read, XGI becomes blonde bombshell, because that's fucking misogynistic, and we only judge you on how pretty you look.
But it was such a huge story here.
Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Who do you think leaked it? I don't think she leaked it. You know, she had some friends from college that knew she was going over to this place.
I think it could have been... I really think it was a family friend. Yeah. I think it's somebody that caught wind of it and was like, oh my god, you would never believe this
There's
shit.
A number of culprits it could have been, yeah.
Either way, the media went fucking nuts. Oh yeah.
They still go fucking nuts.
And this is the 50s.
Stuff. Yeah.
This is the fucking 50s.
Yeah.
And what I really liked is that what Christine wrote to her family when she was almost done with all the procedures. And she told them, she said to her parents, I've changed very much, as my photos will show. But I want you to know that I am an extremely happy person, and the real me, not the physical me, has not changed. I am still the same old Brud, which I think was the name that they called him, but nature made a mistake, which I have had corrected, and I am now your daughter. So it's like, hey Dad, I'm your daughter now.
That kind of makes me want to cry. That is so sweet.
Like, she's telling them, I love you, and I'm the same person that I used to be.
Because they were, like, actually, I mean, who knows what they said in private, but they didn't come out and, like, say, we don't know. Like, they were outwardly very supportive.
Very striking. Like, that was something where I was like, whoa, we're talking to 52? Yes. And the parents are like, this is my kid. This is my kid. I don't care what you say. Like, that's huge. My grandparents would probably not have done the same thing.
Yeah.
To be honest. I mean, to be real. But so she had some pretty fucking progressive parents.
That's really sweet. And when she gets home from Denmark, the media is all crazy and making this big deal about her, like when she's getting off the plane. And she's like, I'm very impressed. Everyone's coming out. I'm very happy to be back. I don't have any plans at the moment. I want to thank you for coming, but I think it's too much.
Yeah, she literally was like, I think all of this is just too much.
She was just like, she didn't ask to be a celebrity for
And
this.
that's why I think that she wouldn't have leaked any of that information, because I feel like she was just like, ugh, get off of me. So anyway, she was just telling them to get their fucking noses out of her business.
Yeah.
Like, it's none of your fucking business.
But I actually heard did you hear the sound clip of that? It's very nice. She's like, but it's too much. I wish I can just see her face being like, it's a bit much, guys.
So everything's okay with her. She's using her fame to be
starts going to starting at nightclubs.
Yeah.
She gets engaged. She has 2 engagements to straight men. But they're, by the government, because it still says male on her,
dumb
birth certificate. But still, kudos for those guys to be able to look at the person and not the
actual, cool. Whatever. It doesn't matter what sexual organ you have. If you like the person, you like the person, period. Yeah. Doesn't matter.
But not everybody sees life that way.
So like we said, she did get the benefits from the government, and she would continue to use this platform that she had in the gay nightclubs, in all of this, media frenzy. She would use that to kind of as a platform to change, and even felt somewhat responsible for starting the sexual revolution. Like, they had conversations with her. No, she didn't, start it because, in the 60s, that's whenever it really started to go. But she said...
She was definitely a foremother.
Yeah, it was the first time that someone was like, oh, just because you're born one way doesn't mean that's who you are.
Yeah. Birth doesn't assign you your...
She blew some 1950s minds.
It's very progressive. So next, I wish... So one of her big inspirations was... How do you say this name? Marlene Dietrich?
Marlene Dietrich.
I wish... Because it's so funny. I wish I would have gotten to dive into her more. And I do hope we do an episode on her one day. Because when I was a little girl... I saw this picture of her that's in the outline in a magazine, and I cut it out and put it on my wall.
It's her.
Because I was just like, I don't know who this is, but she is a badass.
So there are 2 types of photos that you see of Marlene Dietrich. And she's either in this feathery, flowy, beautiful, fabulous hair looking feminine, hyper feminine. And then you see her in the picture that Katie was talking about that she hung up.
She's like in a tux and a top hat and smoking a cigarette. I mean, to be fair, it's a very fitted tux.
Yes. But she's taking on a masculine
And I just remember seeing that as a kid and being like, I don't know who this is. She looks like a badass. And because when I was growing up, I had just all kinds of newspaper clipping and magazine clippings all over my wall. That's how I decorated my room. And I was just like, yup. And she hung in my room probably from the time I was 14 to 17.
Nice. And you didn't even know it was her.
I didn't even know it was her.
Fabulous. So she was like this powerful femme fatale. And I mean it. Like, she was in the movies and pioneered the femme fatale role.
Pioneeress?
Pioneeress, if you're Katie. Her birth name was Magdalene Dietrich.
Was she born... Where was she born? Germany?
Yes. And her family nicknamed her Lena, so that's why you get Marlene Dietrich. That's kind of her thing. And she didn't give a fuck.
My God, she's so beautiful.
No, she's so fucking beautiful.
So beautiful.
And she didn't care what she was in, how she dressed. That's who she is. And I think that's...
She made it very clear. She was like, I'm not dressing for you. I'm not dressing for the media. I'm not dressing for men. I'm dressing for myself.
And that's what I love about her.
Yeah.
And I think that's what Christine Jorgensen pulled from her and inspired, was like, I can be who I want to be.
Yeah.
And he saw her, or she saw her, Christine saw her in a nightclub show in, I think, Denmark or Germany or something. And whenever she saw Marlena, she just was overwhelmed by this woman who was just androgynous and
just didn't give
care.
a fuck about it.
She would get out and sing on stage and just be who she was, and it didn't matter. So, in a nutshell, that's who Marlene Dietrich is, and that she broke out in the 1930 movie Blue Angel.
She was discovered in a Berlin cabaret, which makes me think Sally Bowles so much. My favorite play ever.
Welcome, bienvenue, welcome.
One day, like, my dream is to one day, like, you know how they do those lip sync battles?
Oh, yeah.
I want to do mine hair.
Oh, my God.
Wouldn't it be so much fun? I can dance. I can't sing, but I can dance. And you don't have to sing as lip syncing.
Can we lip sync battle cabaret? Me and you.
I can do mine hair.
I'll do Vilkeman.
And yeah, you can do Vilkeman.
Or Money Makes the World Go Round.
Hey, Patreon supporters.
Do you want to see a karaoke battle? Not karaoke. I can karaoke. I mean, Katie, do you want to?
Nah, lip sync.
Katie's not that much of a karaokeer.
Nah, I'm a lip sync battler, though.
Anyway. We'll totally lip sync for you.
Lip sync
for your life.
Anyway, so I am really impressed that, because at this time when she was like rising to fame in Hollywood, these movie studios had their actors and actresses by the balls by these morality clauses.
Oh, yeah. It was awful.
So she could be very tongue-in-cheek, but she could never come right out and say, I'm bi, because she would have been fired. So she could, like, hint at it. And so, but I love how she did that. She played it well.
Middle of the road.
Yeah.
She had sewing circles, is what she would call them. Sewing circles, and that's like lesbian talk for we touched each other's genitals.
Come over and sew, and by that,
but like her charitable work, what we would consider charitable work, she helped a lot of French and Polish exiles during World War II. She completely renounced her German citizenship, and she used it to save fucking people's lives.
Yeah.
Like, she wrote poetry, and she also wrote to Ronald Reagan. This is really cool. Like, I read it. She wrote to him about AIDS, which fucking good for him, because they never fucking did anything for it.
It makes me... I was watching this Freddie Mercury documentary the other day, and they talked about how the Reagan administration dealt with the AIDS crisis, which was that they pretended like it wasn't happening, and like so many people were dying. So
so many people are still dying because they didn't do anything.
I know,
and that's what it really is. Anyway, so she had this huge laundry list of celebrities that she sent these love letters to, and I urge you, like, read some of them. She was poetic.
I really do want to do a deeper dive. I feel like I'm going to say this about every three of the people in this episode, but I really do want to do a deeper dive into her at some point.
Totally down.
All right.
And anyway. So now we're going to go down.
We got the Queen of the Queens.
Yes, and if you...
And I don't think she would mind me calling her that either.
Oh, fuck no. And if you celebrate Pride... Mm-hmm. You need to give this woman your undivided motherfucking attention because she kind of helped start Pride. So,
Marsha
further ado,
P Johnson, pew pew pew.
Here she comes, pew pew pew. Marsha P Johnson, pew pew pew.
The P stands for pay them no mind.
I love it.
I love it. So also, she wore these flower crowns.
Oh, I love it.
She looks like an Snapchat filter before the Snapchat filters. She looks like the inspiration for him, doesn't she?
Like the Coachella hair.
Yes. She would fit. You could drop her into Coachella right now.
And she would work it.
In.
So, Marsha P Johnson, her birth name was Malcolm Michaels Jr. So, I'm not going to ever refer to her as he. Because I never heard her refer to herself as he.
In her interviews and everything, she never calls herself Malcolm or anything like that.
She from here on out.
Whereas with Christine, she called herself George.
And she would refer to herself.
But he never referred to him, she never referred to herself as Malcolm, so that's the last we'll use it.
So, Marsha, if you see a picture of, like, Christine Jorgensen, who we were just talking about, she's like this elegant, eleganza, beautiful, fabulous. Marsha had all of that, but it was her personality.
Well, also, it was different than... Well, she never had any kind of surgery or took any kind of hormones that we know of. And also, so she was, spoiler alert, she was a drag queen. And back then, drag queens didn't do what they do now. They wanted their, like, or at least the type of drag queen that she subscribed to. Your face, your hair, and you would wear women's clothes, but they didn't put in boobs. They didn't put on hips.
No.
You know, they were, it was almost more androgynous.
It was.
Yeah.
It was very androgynous.
Instead of I want to be a woman, it was an androgynous thing.
So she's full of life, full of love, and to this day...
Y'all, just everything I read about her, listened to about her, it's just like, I wish I knew her.
Again, like, listen to interviews where it's live with her, and you can just feel the bubbly,
like
feel the happiness.
love and the happiness like radiates out of it.
And it's so beautiful. And like, it was so interesting to read about her death as well as her life, because her death just represents this like lightning rod for not only Black Lives Matter, police brutality, gay rights, transgender rights. It just runs.
She
the
covers
gamut.
all your bases. So she was born to a big black, very strict Christian family
in Elizabeth, New Jersey.
When she was a little kid, she would wear dresses just because that's what she felt more comfortable in. But the other boys from the neighborhood would come and like pull up her skirt and stuff. So her mom made her quit doing it.
Yeah, and she recalled a bunch of stories when she was raped by a 13-year-old boy when she was younger. And this obviously has a big impact on her, because she does, in my opinion, she becomes a sex worker.
Yeah.
And I think that is something very indicative of what happens to
and just
sex
something
workers.
I want to note, because I listened to another podcast about this and it got me all riled up. How they were like, whenever the little kids would come and like raise her skirt up, people would just say, "Oh, boys will be boys. They just do it because they like you." And like I remember even when I was a little girl,
they said that same shit.
I'm sure even like 5-year-olds now, some people still tell them, "The boy hit me on a playground. Oh, he does it because he likes you." That's something we need to quit telling little girls.
It's unacceptable.
And that happened to me. I remember being like, "Oh, he stole my backpack and wouldn't give it back to me." And my mom being like,
"Boys will be
And my
boys."
mom being like, "Oh, well, he just does it because he likes you." And so I was like, that's such a fucked up thing to tell little kids, that they do it because they like you. Because then you grow up thinking, "Oh, well, he hits me because he likes me."
It trains you
it's very fucked
in
up.
the wrong.
Sorry, that was a dive into
deep.
the wrong direction.
That's the
But that's
right
just
direction.
what that makes me think of.
So she ended up being a sex worker in Greenwich Village in NYC. And I would say that she wouldn't just restrict her palace to the Greenwich Village.
Yeah.
She would say her empire extended to both East and West villages of NYC.
So when she left home, she told her mom, like, "Hey, I think I'm gay." I guess, like, left out the "I'm also trans" or whatever. And her mom told her, "You are lower than a dog."
That's not uncommon.
How do you...
That is so not uncommon.
It just blows my mind, because she just seems like such a happy person. And for some... I don't know. That broke my heart.
It's a religious thing.
Yeah.
And so it's like, oh, you're one of them, so I have to excommunicate you from my household. Anyway, so like I said, she ended up living on the streets, and something that I loved is that she would use all of her money. Like, she would get $10 and she'd get all this $10 and she'd buy all these flowers, and her friends would be like, "Girl, what the hell are you doing?
You need somewhere to sleep." And she's like, "Oh, but the flowers are so pretty."
And they will make me money later.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what she said. It would make me money later. And what I loved about her style of drag is she didn't take it seriously. So if you're a drag follower, she's not one of those what we call fishy queens, which is they look like a woman. Yeah. Like Christine Jorgensen.
Exactly. Like oh, gross. I just realized why you call a fishy queen. Anyway, like, yeah.
Do you know why it's called that?
Can I... vaginas smell like fish?
Oh! Okay, so you have the one... You just got me the one explanation that I don't agree with. Okay, so there's... In the gay community nowadays, there's 2 different explanations for why we call them fishy queens. And you just described the horrible one that I don't like.
Well, what's the other one? Educate me, please.
The other one is that you look like another fish in the sea.
Oh.
So you blend.
Well, I think it was also because she probably couldn't afford to buy things to pad her hips, to pad her boobs.
And this is why I liked her, is she was a thrift store queen.
She was a dumpster diving queen.
I fucking love it.
She dug some of her clothes out of the dumpster.
She even got like random various crimes in East Village for like prostitution, obviously. She would just walk around naked, the usual. And then one time she was in court for prostitution, and the judge was like, "So girl, what's this P stand for?" And she like stood up and was like, "Pay it no mind." He let her go.
I love that.
He laughed so hard that he was just like, "Okay, she's free. She's good to go." So this is where I'm going to use one of those terms that may not be acceptable, but she called herself a transvestite.
Yeah.
So that was a technical term. Or a queen or drag queen,
Well, and
which
also,
is we're more
this was
familiar
a time, where there was a big rift in the gay community against gay men who wanted to just be, they were like, just take us seriously as normal men.
Mm-hmm.
And then they would see drag queens and transvestites, as they called themselves at that time and stuff. And there was like a gay on gay hate there.
Oh, yeah.
Because
there still is.
The gay men that don't, well, no, I believe there still is.
It's not bad.
But at this time,
bad.
when being gay was an arrestable offense, they were just like, they felt like the drag queens were giving them a bad persona.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I think if we're using these words, transvestite, queen,
but that's what they used for themselves at the time,
yes,
too.
and if we were to take Marsha P Johnson and bring her into today's life, we could say
she would be an Instagram celebrity.
Yes, she would be. But we would technically call her a gender nonconformist.
Yes.
She doesn't want to conform to whatever gender stereotype that you want to give her. So, also, the reason we celebrate Pride is because she was noted to be one of the first few people that started the riots at Stonewall.
I listened to a podcast earlier today when they were talking about her, and they said that the queens, the drag queens, or just the queens as they call themselves.
We're queens here.
I mean, our podcast is called Queens. But the queens are the ones that at Stonewall started throwing shot glasses. It's called the shot glass heard around the world. Because
and that was Marsha P Johnson.
That was Marsha P. Pay it no mind Johnson.
So I feel like in our generation, Katie, is that a lot of gay people, if you talk to them about Pride, they don't know where it comes from.
I feel like most people in our generation know about Stonewall.
Maybe our generation, maybe a little later, don't. But I don't think it's as widely known.
I mean, I didn't know about Stonewall growing up. I didn't know about it until like I started becoming the history nerd or whatever.
Yeah, it's something that's not regularly talked about.
But I feel like there's been enough movies about it that the general population knows about Stonewall.
Touche.
Yeah.
So in the 60s, it was illegal to be gay, and it was illegal to sell gays alcohol. It was illegal to do all this.
It was illegal to stare at another man for too long.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
And it's complete sidebar because it's a different country, but did you ever see that movie The Imitation Game with
oh yes.
And so it's like the guy that basically invented the fucking computer got did he go to prison, or did he, like, the choices were if you were caught being gay, this was in England at the same time as this was happening, basically. No, about 15, 20 years later. But it was like you can either go to prison for 15 years or have medicated sterilization, which meant basically we're gonna
not cutting your balls up, but
make them shrivel up,
Yeah, pretty much.
And like that, and that's like somebody who saved England in World War II. That's how,
harsh.
but that's still the mind frame here of how so many people are viewing gay people in this 1969. Is that when Stonewall happened?
It was in this.
I mean, that's the year Judy Garland died.
Yeah. Yes, she remembers. So it was also, what I found fascinating was it was illegal to wear clothing of the opposite gender, and it was like
that's some Joan of Arc shit. That's what she got burnt for in the end.
Exactly, and it's like 3 articles that you had to wear 3 articles of clothing assigned to your gender at all times. Suck my balls.
What does that even?
They don't even want their balls. They want to wear panties. Let them fucking wear fucking panties.
Just as a straight woman, I'm like, so what if I wore jeans
and socks?
I mean, I guess I would still have a bra on, but what if I didn't? Is that illegal for me to not wear a bra in the 60s?
Like a headband and earrings,
a purse or something.
Like it had to be something. And
that's such bullshit.
Fuck these people. Anyway, so the Stonewall riots, the
was
mafia,
at this bar called Stonewall.
Yes, and the mafias ended up running the clubs,
which was, I'm sorry, not trying to give love to the mafia, very smart on their part though. They're like, look, and this happened with a lot of minority places. The mafia's like, well,
we want to exploit them.
The police are not going to let them do their thing. So we're going to take money from this minority group and then pay the police off not to fuck with this minority group.
Yeah, they're exploiting.
So, I mean, it sucked, but at least they were getting a place where
they could
9 times out of 10, they could gather and maybe meet somebody, you know.
Yeah, and apparently the drinks were all, like, super overpriced, super watered down.
Yeah.
And there was this one mafia guy that ran the club named Ed Murphy, not Eddie Murphy.
What? Are you sure?
Ed Murphy was the mafia member, and his name was nicknamed the Skull. And he would extort money from Wall Street men. Who would go to this place.
Who would go to that place, like, on the DL.
On the DL.
Because they were on the DL.
And he'd be like, oh, I just saw you on Wall Street, because in New York City, Greenwich Village, Wall Street, they're kind of close.
Yeah.
So you'd be able to kind of
Well, also, you don't have that many options in 1969.
No,
The gay
and
bars
so
to go
they
to.
would extort them for money and use their sexuality against them.
Yeah.
And the mobsters would end up paying off the police to be like, hey, don't raid us at this time.
Don't raid us because... But, I mean, the police still had to raid these places from time to time to, like, keep up appearances or whatever.
Yes, exactly. So the gays would end up being beaten by cops, harassed. They would take their IDs, and this is what breaks my fucking heart.
Put it in, like, the newspaper.
What the fuck?
I know. Well, I guess... Well, it's kind of like... I think the way... Obviously, I don't agree with this, but I think the way they viewed it was... like, you know how now when someone has to register as a sex offender, they put it in the newspaper?
Shaming.
Yeah.
Slut shame. Not... I don't... Oh... No, don't
no.
want to say that, but it's shaming. It's
yeah.
shaming.
I mean, though I do agree with, like, for the sex offenders that some of them, yeah.
Well, that's
fine.
a crime. I mean, it's something where you're...
But, like, these people are just trying to be with a consenting adult.
Right?
Let them fucking be with a consenting adult if that's what they want to do.
So, on the night of the Stonewall riots... The cops weren't really expecting this confrontation because, you know, it's just a bunch of gay, transgender people. You know, they're pretty friendly, right?
They're effeminate. They're not going to...
Right? Nope. The cops end up raiding the bar and quickly scurry all of the gay men outside. So they segregate the gay men from the queens, the transgenders.
Oh.
And so they keep the transgender drag queens inside. And so the female cops search... the drag queens to make sure that they have their 3 articles of clothing.
What does that even mean?
1960 shit. Like, I don't even fucking know. So, all of a sudden, there's these rumors circulating outside of the bar that the cops are getting violent with the people inside the bar. So, what the onlookers saw is this paddy wagon pulling up. And they start escorting all of these mafia members, these bartenders, and they take out these 3 queens. And one funny story that I heard is, like, one onlooker saw one of the arrested queens and was like, oh, I'm glad they're taking her. She needs some rest. Basically saying, this bitch is busted, so let her go. Which is shady, but it's kind of fucking funny.
But the gays outside, like, they start, like, being like, hey... There's more of us than there are of you.
So the cops start shoving one of these queens to, like, get her to go into the thing. And she turns around, she whacks the bitch with her purse.
Good.
Like, get the fuck off of me. And so the gays start throwing coins at her. And they start throwing
like
all
mafia,
these...
hush money.
And that's what, like, really struck some of me. I'd be like, bitch, I would be one of those people throwing coins. Being like, you want money? Get the fuck out. So they threw coins at them to symbolize that they were paying off the cops like the mafia paid off the cops.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what they were symbolizing there.
But, like, shit got real, and the cops had to, like, go hide inside, because the gay people on the street were not having it anymore.
No. And what really escalated the violence outside was there was this lesbian who was wearing men's clothing and looked, you know, what we would say is, you know...
butch or whatever.
Yeah. She got pissed off and started fighting back at the police, which... fucking good for her.
Yeah.
She should. And she was able to, like, escape them and start, like, running. Like, taking off. And they were going crazy. Like, yes, bitch, run!
But, like, they started throwing, like, once the cops run back inside to get away from the rioting, they're throwing, like, Molotov cocktails. They are turning over cop cars.
Inside, it is going crazy.
Like, they're just...
They were using a street lamp. They pulled the street lamp out of the fucking ground.
They're mad as hell and they're not going to take it anymore.
No. And so the riot police obviously get called in. And these, oh my God, this is what I love, is that these line dancing queens literally got up and got into the cops' faces and were like, "We are the Stonewall girls. We wear our hair in curls. We wear our dungarees above our Nelly knees." So what were just...
What does dungarees mean?
It's like clothing.
Well, obviously, you're wearing it. We wear our dungarees. What's dungarees? Clothing. Oh, okay, thanks. Good explanation, Nathan. What does Nelly knees mean?
Gay knees. Nelly knees.
But no, so you, like you said, this was the day of Judy Garland's funeral.
So ironically, people tried to, pin that on why the Stonewall riots were saying.
It was just...
Oh, Judy Garland died, so all the gay people got really pissed off.
I think it was just the perfect storm of things. Being fucking sick of it. Maybe there was more people there than usual because it was like a gay icon's funeral.
See, that's what I was thinking.
But I don't think that was it. I think it was just really, we're mad as hell and we're not going to fucking take it anymore.
Exactly. So if you think of yourself going into a gay club, you see a good mixture of people. And so I think in this mixture of people, you may have had some older queens who were like...
Well, it'd be like if Cher died tomorrow.
So you just have a bigger population out there.
So there's just more people out than usual.
So the riots ended up lasting for days. This was not something that just overnight done. Nope. It lasted for days, and I'm glad, because this is the day that we got our gay activism. Fucking yay. They called it technically the Christopher Street Liberation Parade, and thus Gay Pride was born.
But back to Marsha
P Johnson. So Robin Sousa was one of the guys that was inside with the Stonewall riots, where we were talking about the shot glass that was heard around the world. Mm-hmm. And he claimed that he saw her throw a shot glass, the first person to throw a shot glass at a mirror and say, "I've got my civil rights," and threw it, and then it broke. And that's when the drama happened. And I don't fucking blame it, because she was the first one to physically lash out at the cops, and that started the flame, literally.
I'm going to do that the next time someone cuts me off at a bar.
I got my civil rights!
They'll be like, "No, ma'am, you do not," and now you are arrested.
That is like a bucket list item now. I just literally want to be like, I've got my civil rights! I just want to yell that at somebody. Anyway, fun fact is that Andy Warhol, and if you know anything about Andy Warhol, whenever he would take a picture of a famous celebrity or whatever, he would just casually meet them in this, casual setting and be like, "I want to do a picture of them."
But did you hear about whenever those pictures that Andy Warhol did of her came out and they were hung at a gallery, they wouldn't let her in the gallery to see it.
What the fuck?
She was riffraff.
Trap.
Right?
Bitch, also, I'm on that photo.
Also, it's likely he never paid her. But also, it was such a, it was such an iconic thing then that you would think, oh, I'm going to get so much work from being
Andy
photographed
Warhol.
from Andy Warhol. I don't need to be paid. But no, she wasn't even let in the gallery.
Damn, yeah. And her friends didn't even believe her that she was photographed by Andy Warhol.
Because none of them were let in. They were riffraff.
They didn't get to see it. God damn it. So she ended up living this life of activism and stayed with Randy Wicker, who is also somebody else that you would need to look up if you want to know about gay rights. So also Sylvia Ray Rivera is somebody else that you would need to look up.
That was her partner in crime, basically.
Yes, exactly. And they both focus on transgender rights. There's interviews from her and from Sylvia a couple years back, and oh my God, Katie.
Yeah, no, I listened to some interviews with her because they did a documentary about Marsha not too long ago. And Sylvia has seen better days.
Yeah, she's ratchet.
Yeah.
She's definitely falling asleep on her armchair with her cigarette about to burn down the house. She's got that sort of vibe.
She's seen some shit.
Yay, activism!
But, they started the Street Transvestite Activist Revolutionaries, or STAR, a foundation for homeless and transgender youth.
Which was the first outreach.
It was a pioneeress type situation.
Pioneeress. Which, I mean, honestly, today, that's still something that we need to focus on.
Yeah.
Because those people are homeless because
they're running away and being kicked out by their families. Absolutely.
They're kicked out. They're not even running away. They're just kicked out. So, also, she helped found the Gay Liberation Front, which was a huge NYC gay rights scene. And like I said, that's the reason we march the streets. And that's the reason that we're able to be proud LGBTs and LGBT supporters because of these people.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, she was killed on July 6th of 1992.
So she was found floating in, is it the Hudson River?
Yes.
They said that she had just found out that she was HIV positive, and so she committed suicide.
She knew that.
And all her friends were like, she wouldn't do it, she wouldn't do it. And I am very hesitant to ever be like, oh, this person didn't commit suicide because they seemed so happy. Because, I mean,
you can put on a false facade.
I mean, look at Anthony Bourdain just died, and he was like on top of the fucking world, you know? But it was just so crazy how they were just like, suicide, bye!
And
like, they didn't look, I don't want to say, the popular opinion now is that it wasn't suicide. Mm-hmm. I don't know enough about the case to say one way or the other, but it was suspicious how they were just like, suicide, bye.
So that was my big issue with it, is that you see interviews with her, and she knows she has AIDS. She knows she does. Like, she knows she's been around those people. She said comments about, there was a gay roommate that she had that died of AIDS, and she was like, I have it too. So it's not something that she just, oh, I have AIDS, I'm going to kill myself.
Yeah, but you never know what
know what's going on in their
person's mind late at night. Yeah.
But the theories are,
but just how they were so like aloof, like, oh, it was suicide. Bye.
They dismissed it as suicide.
But they have reopened the case, right? Like,
yeah, they did. Some people think it's mafia related because obviously the mafia does some shady shit. The police related because police brutality.
They wanted her to shut the fuck up.
They wanted her to shut up. Obviously could be AIDS related.
I mean, the mafia could have wanted her to shut up, too.
It also could have been drug related. She could have tripped on some LSD and gone crazy. I mean,
because I heard about that, too. I heard she did have a few times where she had taken LSD and she had to be arrested and put in, like, state facilities.
Yeah, so it could also have been that. But
it could have also been her sex work and just getting in the wrong car with the wrong person.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I kind of venture towards, is that there were some witnesses that said they pulled her body out of the river and they saw a hole in her head.
And you don't shoot yourself in the back of the head.
No, you don't shoot yourself in the back of the head.
And then fall into a river.
Yeah, that's just, no. Yeah. If you have a laceration, that means somebody fucking hit you.
So, she died. But I don't want to talk about how she died anymore. I want to talk about that she was a fucking trailblazer.
Yes.
And just pioneer us and set the stage for other people to come after her. She is why we have Pride Parade.
Yep. She was the reason that we are able to speak out the way that we are right now.
Yeah.
And I think the cops...
We really do need to do a full episode on her.
We do. Yeah. And I really don't feel like the cops looked into her murder because she was poor, she was gay, she was black, and she was a prostitute. Those are all the things that cops don't give a fuck about.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I give a fuck about her.
Me too. So let's cheers to our fabulous
Marsha and to Christine
and Marlene Dietrich.
Yeah.
Cheers to our androgynous transgendered women. We love them all.
And to all our Patreon listeners, thank you so much.
Love ya.
Bye.